Ukraine finally got those tanks they wanted, right? The United States will send at some point 30 Abrams tanks, and the Germans have said they'll send 14 Leopard 2 tanks, and the UK is going to send 14 Challenger 2 tanks. But now they want jets. So I'm not kidding. Like within not even 24 hours after getting the tanks, the Ukrainians saying no, we want fighter jets now. We want those birds you have in the sky. Remember George Bush? So this is what's going on. You can see here in The Guardian, Ukraine says US and German tank pledges are only the beginning and calls for fighter jets. Okay, so here this is from CNBC. Okay, let's just go through this quickly. So the dust is barely settled on the decision by the US and Germany to supply battle tanks to Ukraine, but talk has already turned to the possible use of other firepower, namely fighter jets. So here's they're quoting Zelensky. I'm just going to try and show you the clip, right? And let's see what he has to say.
Дякую за це рішення. Дякую особисто пану президенту Байдену. Дякую Конгресу, кожній американській родині за відчутну силу американського глобального лідерства. Я дякую всім нашим союзникам за готовність передати нам сучасні і дуже потрібні танки. Все це доводить найважливіший факт для світу зараз. Факт, що свобода тільки міцніше. І те, як об'єднано ми всі працюємо для посилення свободи, для захисту України і Європи. Це історичні досягнення лідерів, які і працюють зараз. Ключове тепер швидкість та обсяг. Швидкість тренування наших військових. Швидкість постачання танків в Україну. Обсяг танкової підтримки. Ми маємо сформувати такий танковий кулак, такий кулак свободи, після ударів якого тиранія вже не підніметься. Ми можемо це зробити разом і тільки. Так само, як ухвалюємо рішення сьогодні важливі. Дуже важливо, що є прогрес і по інших аспектах нашої оборонної співпраці. Я говорив сьогодні з генсеком НАТО Єнсом Столтенбергом. Маємо відкрити постачання також далекобійних ракет для України. Важливо, ми маємо розширювати і нашу співпрацю в артилерії. Ми маємо вийти на постачання літаків для України. І це мрія, і це задача. Важливе завдання для всіх нас. Чим більше оборонної підтримки наші герої на фронті отримують від світу, тим швидше закінчиться агресія Росії, і тим надійніше будуть гарантії безпеки для України, усіх наших партнерів після війни. Держава-терорист повинна програти. Право на життя людей має бути захищене. І так.
Wow, he really, he put all of the platitudes in there. A fist of freedom. You heard the man. Bring out the F-16s. Come on. So he wants F-16s from the Americans and other countries who've bought F-16s. He wants the French Rafale. He wants the Eurofighter, which is, a project between Britain, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and so on. And I want to show you here's the response. Okay, so German defense minister says, out of the question, no jets. You're not getting any fighter jets. Now, I'll get to what I think of that in a second. Here's what the French are saying. Okay, here's what the French president Emmanuel Macron said. And this is important because the Ukrainian defense minister was in Paris today, right? So let's hear what Macron said about giving Ukraine jets.
Le deuxième critère, c'est que ce ne soit pas escalatoire. C'est-à-dire que les équipements que nous livrions ne soient pas de nature à toucher le sol russe, mais bien à aider à l'effort de résistance et de protection du sol ukrainien.
Er is helemaal geen sprake nu van leveranties van F-16's aan Oekraïne. Er is helemaal geen sprake van. Geen verzoeken, geen taboes. Maar het zou echt wel een hele grote volgende stap zijn als het ooit zover komt.
I don't get what he's saying. He says it shouldn't be escalatory. It literally is. Like, well, how is it not? How is it not? Here's Biden. Okay, he was also asked about this. Let's see what he had to say.
President, will the United States provide F-16s to Ukraine? No. Mr. President,
okay, now I've shown you what everybody's saying. Now let me tell you what I think. The Germans are saying it's out of the question. Bullshit. It's not. Because when you asked the Germans to send helmets last year, they said that was out of the question, right? And then with artillery, they said that was out of the question. And then when it came to the tanks, they said that was also out of the question. And what, lo and behold, they're sending German tanks. So it's out of the question for now. For the time being, it's out of the question. But, if you just, you put a little pressure on Schultz, a tiny fart, he's going to roll over and give you those F-16s. So if I were Zelensky, I'd go for Schultz first, okay? Go do your thing. He's going to give you the jets, right? Maybe. This is also interesting in Politico. They're talking about how there's a bunch of, because you saw Biden, right? But they're saying inside the Pentagon, there's a contingent of military officials that are pushing for this delivery of F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, okay, this isn't exactly breaking news. I'm sure you had people pushing for that from day one. In you could point at any country in the West and find people who are, in support of that. I just want to show you something that's really funny because, last time when we were talking about the tanks, I went live immediately. So I went live before Biden even had a chance to on video announce the delivery. So let me just play you the clip, and then I want to explain something to you because I think you're going to find this quite funny. Okay, so this is when he said okay to the tanks.
We're showing the strength and we'll never falter. But look, the idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains.
Keep in mind, this is before, huh? You look at how he changed his opinion, right? This is before and after sending the tanks.
American pilots and American crews. Just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say. That's called World War III. Today, I'm announcing that the United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, the equivalent of 1 Ukrainian battalion. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives.
No, Secretary Austin announced that because he has friends who work at the tank factory. That's why. So listen, when the Germans sent the Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, their condition was that the United States also sent the M1A2 Abrams, okay? Well, it turns out that they duped the Germans. And you can see this is in the Washington Post. They're talking about how Biden had a sit down with his Secretary of State, with Blinken, and then Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor. So all three of them are in the Oval Office and they're trying to hash this out and call Schultz and get him to send tanks. And he says, no. He says, I want you to send tanks as well. And then they'd say, okay, we'll get back to you. And then they're trying to figure out a way to get Germany to send the tanks. And you know what their solution is? This is their solution. So Blinken suggests a possible workaround, according to the Washington Post. What if they, the United States, announced a commitment to supply M1 Abrams, but at some future point, as part of Kiev's quote-unquote long-term needs in a war that might go on for years? So let me translate what this means. They basically tricked the Germans. They said, yeah, we'll send tanks sometime. Like that was the little asterisk that nobody paid attention to. Some point in the future, they'll send the tanks, right? This is so typical. This is like, unless it's in writing, and even then you can't be sure, but unless it's in fucking writing that they're going to send the tanks tomorrow morning and they're going to be in beige color and they're going to come from this factory off of this line and be driven by this, these soldiers, it's just not happening. They'll always find a way to wiggle out of contracts and assurances and, commitments. It's so typical. I can't believe I didn't see this coming. Shame on me. It's so funny, man. This is exactly what the United States does. Typical bullshit, right? We'll send the tanks, sometime. This is so embarrassing for the Germans. It's really like, they have no control over anything, like their own fucking energy resources. Just okay, Americans blew our shit up. We can't say anything. Oh, you want us to send tanks? Yes, master. Here you go. Here's some tanks. But you promised to send yours, right? God, it's so pathetic, man. Really. And the when it comes to the jets, let me explain something, because with the tanks, I already explained to you this is a very, very difficult undertaking, because you need to get Ukrainians now trained on completely different systems. They're used to T-72s, maybe T-90s, I don't know, but basically Soviet era or Russian equipment. And now you're trying to train them on American tanks, and you're trying to train them on German tanks and British tanks. You know, yes, NATO have some things in common, right? But still, you can't learn to drive a Challenger 2 and then hop into a Leopard. So now you've got all these Ukrainians who are training on different equipment. This takes time, right? On top of that, and with the jets, it takes even more time. Like you need half a year, just to complete your training. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen in half a year? I don't know if there's going to be a planet in half a year with this shit, you know? So, and again, you know, this is very, very escalatory. And I keep saying that because they keep escalating, you know? They're hoping like, okay, if we give the Ukrainians these jets, they won't bomb Russia. You don't know that. You guys remember before there was the same concern with the HIMARS, and then the Americans gave them short or medium range missiles, so not the 300-kilometer ones, so they can't fire in Russia. There were still some attacks inside of Russia. You remember? Just a few, right? Nothing too serious, but still, it was on Russian soil. So, you know, this idea that you can just, you know, loan them or give them these fighter jets and the Russians are going to sit back and take it. I don't know. Maybe they will, but I'm pretty sure there's going to come a point where the Russians are not going to just sit back and take it, and they're going to respond. And I don't know what that is going to look like, because, you know, you don't want to know what that looks like. That's why you don't do these things. You go and try to avoid this, right? You send diplomats so you don't come to this situation where you're walking on eggshells. This is not good. I'm sorry. Like, you know, you can say whatever you want, but this is a NATO versus Russia thing, all right? They make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it.